Special thanks to listener Phil Korf for this week's pick of Dancer in the Dark, and welcome to Debt to Cinema. I'm Stephen Mulmanex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching latest releases. However, sadly, put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
I just want to make sure that you fully comprehend what this means. Once this starts, there's no stopping it. Do you understand me?
Yeah, I'm prepared.
Please kill me. You just be my friend. And show some mercy, please, and just kill me.
Why did you kill him?
He asked me to.
I just did what I had to do.
I got little games I play when it goes really hard. I just start dreaming and it all becomes music.
We vaguely mentioned Dogma 95, I think, in Tricked, and, that's a movement that I'm still fascinated by, even though this technically doesn't count, and Lars von Trier, he's a filmmaker I'm still fascinated by, even though the only other film I saw was Melancholia. I think,
check out Nymphomania.
Yeah, that's good.
I wouldn't say it's good, but check it out. I've seen Breaking the Waves,
damn it,
Nymphomania, now this. I saw Breaking the Waves last year. That is actually good. That is
Okay.
very much in order or in line with this movie, too. I guess it's part of a trilogy. It's like the Golden Heart trilogy. It's this, Breaking the Waves, and then The Idiots, which is his Dogma 95 film, if you can call it that.
Now, I really want to see the Celebration, though, but I know that's Thomas Vinterberg, so that's...
Yeah, Festin, I've seen that. I saw that in Mosier's class. Like, he taught us about Dogma 95, and then we went over it, who the filmmakers were, how, like, Julian Donkey Boy's it. It's the only American filmmaker in that, with what Harmony Korine did with that. And it was funny, because when I was watching this, I was like, this seems like Dogma 95 meets Gummo. Like, just the way it looks, like, the choice in colors, it looks like a piece of shit. Like, I understand especially why you said, like, why is there a Blu-ray copy of this? That doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is very clearly early 2000s digital camera, when
That's
digital...
shot on PAL. Like, even the musical sequences themselves, which,
are amazing. So fucking awesome.
There's some really cool, though, just about how they're shot, which is they have these really small digital cameras, and they had 100 of them, and they just put them around places, and they basically just captured it live, and they're cutting around, and, like, that's... I mean, the idea there, it's pretty cool. I don't know,
really
the effect,
nice.
it's... Like, I didn't like every single musical number. The one on the train tracks, though, I thought that was really good.
I'd seen that before. Kind of just like background, we were talking about Lars von Trier. I'm sure we'll get back to him. Had you ever heard a Bjork song or listened to her music before checking this out?
Army of Me is a great song.
I don't even know I know that one. I mean,
I have not listened to, like, a lot of her music, but that one, it's a legitimately great song.
Most of her music is pretty amazing. I've heard Post a good amount, but even better than that, Homogenic, which came out, what year was that? It was like 2002, maybe it was 98. I'm double checking right now. 97. So that, she was probably doing, like, world tour for that when she got approached to do this film. But yeah, almost everything on there, especially Bachelorette, which is just one of those songs you hear, you're like, damn, I want to cry to this shit. I've slept to that album too many times to count. And she is and always has been just this international star.
Yeah, this is her only movie, too.
Technically, no. She has, like, a role, because I went on IMDb, it's her only starring role. She appears in something else, and then she has a visual album for her most recent album as well. So she's done other things. I know she had like a VR thing also. But yeah, after watching this, I don't think I ever want to see her acting. I don't mean that in like, oh, she isn't talented, but more so just how draining it was to watch her. And I don't think she wants to do it either.
I don't know if it's her fault, really. I mean, like...
No, I'm saying nothing about fault. No, like, literally just... everything that I've seen by Lars von Trier, it tries your ass off. Like
Yeah, no,
it's
definitely. I mean,
really
there's just-
trying. Like
There's something about the expression she makes in this movie, where it's like one of those sad animal shelter commercials where they do the slow push into that really sad
Yeah, with the
music,
Sarah
and like
McLachlan,
they're
yeah.
just and it seems like that's almost every single shot.
not
with her,
all of
though.
them. There's lots of
No,
beautiful
even
moments
early
here.
on before stuff's happening. Like, I don't know,
There's
something about it where it's just like I kept feeling that he was trying really hard to make me cry.
I got close to crying with this movie. It could have, I think, if there was, basically, if it didn't end the way that it does, it could have elicited more of an emotional response. And instead, you just get this, like, oh, it's over moment. We're like, okay, which totally falls in line with the rest of the movie.
That just sums up the movie for me. Like, I kind of, I hate to say it, but I just felt like it was trying way too hard to be manipulative, and like it just really.
I've seen that on the internet. I was reading some.
Yeah,
some
no,
critical
it's like
response.
that's the thing is like that. I kind of felt that way with Melancholia. Is that there was this beautiful opening sequence and then this beautiful finale, and then in the middle there's just this movie about depression that's just kind of trying to dwell on it and is not all that interesting. And then here it's like. Now I hate to say it, I feel like I know exactly what kind of filmmaker he is as far as being a storyteller.
Oh, he's
because
a bleak guy. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know, but like it's trying way too damn hard to be bleak. Like
I don't know.
I can't find any substance in it. Like, it almost feels like a film student, trying to tell a story that he just wants to be sad, and kind of makes up these details when he goes along. It's like, okay, she has this hereditary thing with her eye, but what is it? Okay, just says that it passes on, and that's why she's saving up. The guy needs money because he spends way too much on his wife. Okay, these details are very vague. Oh, I mean, like, even the way that some things are delivered as exposition when the kid asks, hey, can I see the gun? Oh, he keeps it right by his desk. Like, it almost... Like, it really does feel kind of half-assed, and, like, I wanted to say, like, oh, maybe that's kind of an excuse with the digital photography, but then at the same time, not really. Like, I love the independent feel here, but then, I don't know, like, from a storytelling perspective, it feels so weak and so purposefully done to get a reaction out of us that it wasn't getting out of me.
No, I'm really torn on this movie because
the
opening 30 minutes, I didn't really care for it. Like, I'm like, this world building's kind of weird. Okay, a factory worker, it looks like shit. The editing's really weird. It's like jump cutting in between takes. It
definitely was working.
No, yeah, from like a stylistic standpoint, it totally works. Like you buy into it. Just this period piece, which is like the first thing that this does.
Washington State in the 60s,
which
shot in Sweden.
You don't know that. You have to research that. This could be anywhere, but it's very...
I thought it was pretty obvious.
It's pretty clearly it's America.
It was definitely not middle America.
Yeah, it's America, and it is a period piece, which is not allowed. You can't do period, you can't have violence, you can't have cutting, you can't have non-source dialogue or music. Basically, any assistance in any way. You also can't put your name on the film. So those are the main things that this isn't Dogma. Just in terms of the stylistic approach, it is. And you could also say, in the same way that like 28 Days Later also has a similar look to this, except that's a lot prettier and it's a genre film, and technically this is also a genre too. But anyway, so like the first like 30 minutes, I'm not really sure what to know. I maybe in the back of my head I knew this is a musical, like when I had a boner for York, not in terms of looks but music, mind you. I'm sure I've seen it all. I definitely saw the music video. Tonight when I finished the movie, I watched the Oscar performance because, hey, swan dress, I wanted to see that on stage. Everything about that is just, I love her just basically going, fuck you, Academy. If you haven't seen those pictures, if you haven't seen that video, it's on YouTube. I found like a version with subtitles in Spanish, and like she does this kind of like solo in the middle of the song, and the subtitles are just question marks because they don't know what she says. It's so funny. But yeah, no, once, the movie starts going, once you kind of dig into these characters, and more importantly, once the music enters the picture, which is like around the 40-minute mark when the factory comes alive, I couldn't stop watching, but then, like I said, I was torn. Like, anything to do with the music, talking about musicals, being in the movie theater and like watching screenings of these like 50s or 40s musicals, talking about it, like any conversation they have about music, and especially like I said, the performances themselves, I was captivated. Like it was unlike anything I've ever seen before, especially in terms of a musical. And then yeah, you have this very drawn out, manipulative, melodramatic framing structure and story about this mother who's, you know, basically doing everything she can for her child and the very tragic reality that she's faced with. Like it hurts me. Like it was a painful viewing experience because I loved so much of it, and then at the same time didn't like it, and then also just was it like took my breath away. Thank you, Phil, because I'm sure I would have seen this eventually, just because it's one of those filmmakers that I haven't seen much of, but he's revered for a reason.
Yeah.
But this was not on my even anytime soon watch, and yet now I think this is one of those films that I'm always gonna bring up. Like, oh, you like foreign stuff, you like artsy stuff. Have you seen this? Like, Dancing in the Dark is definitely a special kind of animal. I've never seen a movie like this. Like, I hesitate to call it a movie. Like, it's shot a certain way for a certain reason, and it's like the medium meets the message here. Like, I think it's supposed to look almost, just amateurish for a reason, because it seems
I wish
real.
I could say that.
It seems real, like how shitty it is, and then the dance numbers are just beyond description. They're so good. Like the choreography here, especially in the factory number, when you go from, oh, this is so bleak and dreary, look at the period piece with the haircuts and the clothes and the cars especially, and the money. They got period money, which was awesome. Like the guns, like everything is done so well. It's a period, and then it's shot this way where it's all almost hazy. And at first I had this note, I was like, oh, does the style match the dwindling eyesight of Bjork's character? Is that it? Is it like Selma's going blind, and so we have to watch this filmmaking that looks like the DP was blind? But no, it's I don't know.
You might be
like,
digging a bit too much there, honestly. It does get a little like the resolution. I think it gets a little iffy during the musical sequences,
It gets
and that might
better.
be just in the nature of the
No,
cameras.
I think it gets
in fact,
better, especially the lighting. The colors really pop.
No, it's funny, like they pop, but then I wondered, is that because of the cameras themselves? Because they have 100 of these like really small cameras. They're not small enough to be GoPros or anything, but still, like they're obviously
probably around
not
that
like
size.
the Sony cameras that they were going around with. They're quite a bit bigger than those actually, but. Like I was thinking, maybe it's just it works that it's a bit brighter and more colorful when you get to the musical sequences, because they are sequences that are actually in her head. Everything else is supposed to be put in the real world.
All of them except the last one and the rehearsals for The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Like
Although
the
the matte paintings that you get in the beginning, just those little like watercolor blots, like those definitely fit as far as the blind.
Really bizarre opening. I
goes.
didn't know what to make of it, especially when you get that inner title where it's like,
Well, after
Dancing in the
seen-
Dark, Lars von Trier. Like you get
After
that whole
having
thing.
seen West Side Story a few months ago, I was thinking,
Oh,
okay,
that
this
makes
is
sense,
the overture,
actually.
and you're
Yeah,
getting like
yeah.
those cool, colorful
that.
images. Yeah, although this is just more like just these little splashes of watercolors that are just kind of showing different bits of it. The one in West Side Story is kind of,
Well, like a
that's a bigger
cityscape,
movie
yeah.
it's doing something pretty cool, but it's also getting you pumped up for it. That's the opposite of this, like, because this
It's funny because
Yeah.
like bringing up West Side Story, I think the better musical to talk about in terms of deaths of cinema is All That Jazz. One of the first things we picked on this show, and it's totally not a musical in the same way that this movie is not a musical.
I think this is more like a musical. Like All That Jazz, it has more of that 8.5 neo-realist
Yeah.
feel to it. This, though, I mean, just part with plot and characters and how the thing is set up, I do feel it's very dry and it's very empty the way that it does it, and it's very shallow storytelling. But then, the same could be said about West Side Story. You got Tony just going like, I feel today's a good day because I'm just gonna fall in love with this one person, and sure enough he does, but like when you're seeing a musical like that that's supposed to be happy and is supposed to be going for a specific feeling, there's
Well,
some entertainment value in that.
that's
Here
the
it's the
description.
opposite of
Yeah,
that.
that's the description for almost every musical, though. Like
Yeah,
that's why
so
they
this
talk
kind
about
of
it
works
here.
as that anti-musical that's going against that. But then again, I don't know. For
I don't
the sake
even-
of storytelling, I'm just kind of like,
I don't
I just
see it that way. It's like we talked about this during La La Land, especially how, and I've talked. I don't know if I mentioned it maybe in All That Jazz or West Side Story. I'm not even sure, but I'm not a fan of the musical in the same way that Selma's not a fan of the musical here, where it doesn't make sense that someone's just going to randomly start dancing down the street and singing. Like, that's not the real world.
She's a fan of them. She just doesn't like that they end. That's the thing.
Well,
Is that she just
no,
goes, "I would
nuh-uh.
leave.
No,
I
like,
would leave before it was done."
They have
because, yeah.
lots of conversation in this movie about
Yeah.
musicals. Like, she says that, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't like the way they end. I don't like the big musical number. I leave the song before last. That way,
Yeah.
it's always going on in my head, sure. But maybe it's Stomer's character or
Yeah, he says he doesn't
or
like
Catherine Deneuve, who is in Umbrellas of Cherbourg, mind you. But yeah, I think he's the one that says, he's like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, why are they singing and dancing? And so they just avoid that here. Like, this is the music all. Like, it's I work in this factory. I hear the pressing. It's doing this. I hear the hammers. They're doing that. And it's almost like it's an orchestration for my life. Because you get that first moment where she's daydreaming, and then you get the actual dream. When you're brought into this reality, like, it just, what you call it, like, the fact that almost all of the songs here, all the musical numbers, that the samples come from the source, that they set in motion that these dreams are also just as real as the reality. It's like they can channel the numbers in a way that just makes sense, and it highlights that just the power of song and dance to transport us from the misery of our lives. Like, Selma has just a horrible life, a horrible existence. She's going blind, like you said. She has a hereditary illness. She has this son who, from a distance, looks like she doesn't care about, even though her whole life she's been thinking of.
I don't know. That's one of the things that irritates me, is that if she really cares, like, why not draw or develop that relationship a bit more? But he's just kind of there.
He's not necessary.
Yeah,
It's like he's literally just like a catalyst for some of her actions. It's someone.
He's there to ask about the guns so that we know that
No,
there's going to be a
even-
gun that's going to pay off later.
Of course, there's gonna
and
be a fucking gun. It's a police officer, okay?
well,
Like,
it's-
why
it's-
wouldn't he
it's
have
a-
a gun? Yeah.
It's a poor setup. He keeps it up in his drawer, like, oh, he's a police officer, duh. But I don't know, just the
I
way
don't-
that it was delivered.
I don't
felt
care about
half-assed.
David Morse's character or his wife or almost anyone here. Like, it's about one person and one person only, and it's Selma. This is a actor vehicle, even though she's not an actor yet. Better yet, it is a performer vehicle. This movie is all about the
wish
music.
that things were better developed so that I could
That's-
more sympathize
That's
with her.
true
and
for
more
every
care a bit
musical,
more.
though. Like, if you watch a musical,
Yeah, but I mean, especially like for some this heavy, like for a like I said with West Side Story, for
Yeah.
some that's supposed to be happy, like those are musicals that are supposed to entertain you.
wouldn't
And you know what? That is
exactly-
true, because there are some musicals, like a large part of them,
like 90% of them. Like, I
that
wouldn't
end up
even
not
say
working for me.
West
No,
Side
that end up,
Story
like-
isn't even a happy movie, to be honest. Like,
Well, no, the ending isn't, but there is a joyous feeling throughout, and it's a very rousing
it's
piece
just
of
it's
entertainment.
It's because it's upbeat music and they're dancing and they're singing
Yeah.
and they're kids and they're juvenile. It's just everything about it. Whereas this is more realistic, like I said. That the beauty of music, and especially the musical, is that it is an escape. That you have this gateway. You know, if you hear this song that's so catchy that you can't stop singing it, you could be having the worst day ever, and yet, like, Climb Every Mountain gets stuck in your head. Maybe not that one. Probably more likely like My Favorite Things. And you could be in your prison cell about to go walk your final 107 steps of your life, and yet you
Yeah,
get
and then
My
you're doing the
Favorite
number
Thing
in your
stuck
head.
in your head, and you're happy. You're happy for like 3 or 4 minutes, for however long you sing it. And that is the power of music or dance or song and dance. And I think that's what this movie's trying to say. Even if it is a little heavy-handed, even if, you know, it is unbelievable in the same way that all musicals are unbelievable. But there's just a truth here between the way it was shot and having an international cast play Americans or imported Americans in Sweden, even though it's not supposed to be America. Like, it's such a weird, just everything.
There's
It's
things that I'm able to accept easily, but then there's just things that, like, parts of it just dragged and are really not that well developed. Or maybe this could be traced back to how there's so many musicals that I just don't like, because I generally don't like them. Like, you know, I really loved West Side Story. That's a rare thing for me. I tend not to like musicals. That's a genre that I acknowledge I sometimes have a bias against it, but,
like,
you know, I'm always fair, and I try to...
I know you haven't seen it. Watch Rocky Horror. I count School of Rock as a musical. That's totally a fucking musical, or more so like a rock opera kind of.
Oh, that movie's awesome.
Tommy by The Who. That's fucking awesome. I'm sure you've seen Wizard of Oz enough times. Like,
Oh yeah, like
I'm not well versed in musical. I wish I was. You know, I've seen more and more recently, and I want to see more. And there's just something about the happy-go-lucky nature of the Golden Age musical that has never sat well with me, because it's so fake. It's like pure escapism on film, and it makes sense given the moment. You know, this is right after World War II. Like, oh, everything's great in America. And
yeah, no, there's definitely some where it doesn't work because it's just an attitude. Like, West Side Story has far more to it as far as, you know, just creativity and charm, and like I mean, yeah, it is an upbeat movie, but like there's a unique energy to it. And then there's, I don't know, there's shit like Oklahoma where it's just like, hey, just put on a happy face and be happy and do like all this twirling and spinning and shit. And yeah, there's just no soul to the choreography or the songs themselves.
What I look for in a musical is a brain. I want a reason for why these people are singing and dancing. I want a vehicle for that. You know, I've talked about it on the show before. Chicago, perfect. They literally only sing and dance on a stage which is separate from the reality that they're living. All that jazz, they're rehearsing the numbers until it goes into the fucking dreamscape, okay? She's literally dreaming. She's dreaming.
Every single one of them, yeah.
Well, not the final one.
No,
yeah,
the final one. The way that's done. I mean, because the cameras change, like they're using the 100 cameras there. They have the color tilting a bit there.
I'm talking about when she is about to get hung.
Okay,
the literal final thing in the movie, the song, that was real. She's sitting there by herself. She hears her heartbeat, and she starts singing to the melody of that.
I guess if you count that as a musical number.
It is a musical number.
It's definitely someone singing, but it's not a number in the same sense as the other ones are musical numbers.
I think it's just as much a musical number as the others. It's just that one is realistic. That when you're looking at her, you're no longer in her mind in that moment. That you are watching, like the gallery is, her about to die. And she's happy regardless that she gets to sing her song. And just like in the way that she loves musicals, or hates them rather, there is no closure to it. It just ends. She just gets her neck snapped. It's over. The song goes on forever if you're a sadist. Like, I simultaneously hated and loved the ending. I hated it because everyone likes a happy ending. That's why you watch a musical.
Well, you knew,
and then
you
I
were
loved
not
it because
it get that in this one.
No, but well, that's the thing though. Like in Breaking the Waves, you do get a sort of a happy ending. Like I don't think Von Trier is outside the realm of pleasing his viewers.
I don't know. That's the thing though. I just felt like by design, like this was supposed to be like an unhappy story and an unhappy ending, and I just feel like I had problems with how it got there because it never felt organic necessarily how it got there. Probably with the exception though of like just I guess the moment itself with the gun and the shooting, like, and I really love how that was set up and how David Morse was utilized, because like just some of the dialogue here and like how it's very on the nose and everything. I'm just kind of like it's cringeworthy, but you know, like it seems like a film student that's learning screenwriting. But then again, I guess Lars von Trier is not an English speaker, so it's like okay, I can let that go. But the way that like he finds out where the money is when he's just and he's standing there,
that fucking
it's so
scene,
chilling.
Man.
Yeah, like that is so good, and like the look on David Morse's face, it's just you want to punch him because you know exactly what he's thinking. I'm just like, oh fuck it, like this is so good, like just
it's
how that's being pulled off
when that comes together, because this is right after the second musical number. This is after the I've seen number on the train, which is just
that's the best
it's
one. I think.
it's amazing. Like
yeah, like that's the one where you love that one in the factory. I was just kind of like, okay, I accept that that's in the character's head, but like I kind of was somewhat annoyed by Selma throughout this movie. Like when you have a character just going like, "Oh, I'm going to call you Cavalda just because I can," or if she's just talking during the movie theater and going, "Hey, fuck you, I paid good money to see that," like that on principle. I'm just going to be like, "Well, fuck these characters."
I thought that was real
Oh,
funny.
it was funny, but then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I totally would have yelled at this
sure.
bitch.
For sure.
I don't care. Yeah,
For sure. But
but yeah, no, that train scene's so good.
but yeah, so you get that train scene. As soon as that number is over, she goes home, and then yeah, you get David Morse paying her a visit. Where is that money? Like they have that conversation, which I don't agree. I don't think all the dialogue here is just tacked on for like to manipulate
No, like
you.
well, some of it feels like that. Like the conversation about money just happens like that one night when he comes to her house. He's just like, "Yeah, so my wife, we're losing money and stuff like that."
I like that
it's,
scene.
It's that two-dimensional though, where they don't really talk about many things except things that are moving plot or just like, "Oh, I like musicals," like a point that's hammered in throughout. Like she almost talks about musicals with every character except for Jean.
I think that's just because in what I've seen of his work, von Trier is he's more interested in the way something feels or the way it looks than the actual conversation. Like his stuff is not dialogue driven. Like Nymphomaniac is.
It's funny because I felt like that was most of it here.
No,
I mean there was an emphasis on dialogue. There's not many
Nymphomaniac
moments,
is
pauses in there.
A 2-part epic. That movie is fucking long, and none of the conversation matters. It's the sex. It's the action. That's all that matters. But yeah, just having that David Morse scene when you're watching him and she's fully succumbed to her blindness.
Yeah.
And it's so sad and like tragically manipulative that this cop, someone who his duty is to serve and protect the people, that the person who lives on his land, not even just someone that he's sworn to serve and protect, but his renter, he goes into her house, takes advantage of her not disease but disability, and steals her money just because.
Well, here's something that I found pretty scary. It was frustrating watching it, and this is in a good way, is that right when she goes to confront him, she's very quiet about it, and she's struggling to have the courage to say, "No, I'm going to take this money." And I'm thinking, yeah, this is 1964. This is definitely a time where a woman would have hesitated to just go up and confront him about that, let alone a cop. And the way that he's just standing there going like, no, I'm keeping this money. You're not taking it away.
This is my house. I'm your landlord. I have a gun. I got handcuffs. I got a wife downstairs
the way that's
who
being
knows
put
you.
together, you totally can feel that, and it's chilling. And then by the time that the gun actually goes off, it's like, you know what, that makes sense. But what's ludicrous to me, though, is how later on then they go on to say, "Oh, he got 34 wounds." And, it's almost funny that she shot him in such bad ways just
that
because
number I didn't understand.
She's going blind.
I don't understand the fucking number. Like the gun only had. She maybe shot him 4 times.
The most obviously callous planned homicide ever to happen in recent memory.
The deposit box itself, she really fucked him up with that. But 34 seemed like a really weird number. It doesn't matter. That court scene is there for one reason, and it's for the really cool court musical number. That's it. I don't think I'll ever
halfway through. That was the halfway point in that movie, and at that point, I was just kind of like, all right, it's kind of dragging to just get her to the noose. And yeah, I did get a bit of a laugh at this. I noticed that the judge's name was A.D. Mantle, which I guess is a tip of the hat to Anthony Dodmantle, but then I saw that he didn't shoot this. So
that's the thing. That's the name for the director, the quote-unquote director in Dogma 95 that's responsible for the feature, since you can't take credit for your own work. So the first 3 Dogma 95 films, there literally is no director. There are no credits either. So
this is the name of the DP. So what, they have just them sprayed around usually in some way?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's a misnomer. It's nobody. It's a fake name. It's like a Shemp. It means nothing.
The one in the credits?
That's what I'm saying.
No, because 80 Mantle, that was the name of the judge. I'm saying
Yeah.
Anthony
Yeah,
Mantle's a
that's
real person.
like an Easter egg. It's a joke. It's in the same way that Bjork at one point in the movie is laying down on some logs of birch. Bjork means birch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's Trier being cute in the same way that I guess he wanted to be the patron in the movie theater complaining, and he went, nah, I can't do that. And
Yeah, because there were tensions on set.
yeah, Bjork apparently hated him like big time, and
Yeah.
I would probably hate a director that put me through this kind of shit too, to elicit that kind of emotional response in the scenes, and especially when you're like a prolific singer and you get these really awesome musical numbers that you get to do where they're very happy-go-lucky, and yet that clashes so strongly against the rest of the movie. Like, this is just a really bleak, tragic story. Something that you've seen before. It's very generic, but it's fitting for the era. Like, it feels like a 1960s or 1950s melodrama, sure. And yet, it's like...
I don't know. I don't feel the period, like, until I'm told it. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that it's shot with digital cameras.
Maybe,
you know, like,
yeah.
I
It
think
separates the reality, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with Public Enemies, that Michael Mann flick about bank robbers in the 30s, you know, obviously shot digitally at the time with those low-grade cameras, but that movie, that like, just the look of it took me out of it, which, you know, it's not something I want to knock against, because then it's like saying, oh, you can't do period pieces with digital film. Why would you do that? Like, and of course you can now, and you can make it look legitimately good, but when it's this rough, there's just some about it that just alienates me.
No, I knew this was period. I didn't know where it was. It was clear that it was America. Like, the further you get in the film, like, it spelled out a little bit more, but even still, no, it's very apparent, like I said, between the clothes and just the money and the cars, especially the cars.
Like, yeah, it all fits in later, especially the
trains,
cop cars.
yeah, like everything. Like, the production on this had to be pretty expensive. Since this was shot in Sweden, to get like American cars from the 50s, and the money. Like, I was impressed by the money. One of my least favorite things in films is when I see the phony money. It doesn't even look real, but no, this is like period authentic, like probably like 20 circulation, like tender. Like, I was like, whoa, like that's something that I really
It's
love.
mostly ones as well.
Well, like
So
fives
it's
and
easy
twos and
yeah.
ones, but even still, it was
Like, we didn't even have the new 5 at that point yet here in the U.S., so they still look that way.
it was clear that, you know, everything is done very purposefully here with the production design and the sound design. Like, I don't know if I prefer the factory number more than I've seen on the trains, but if I do, it's just because there's more people dancing, there's more choreography, and the fact that the song builds. You're not at any point in the film up until then really even sure it's a musical. Like, yeah, you have them doing My Favorite Things earlier in the film and like trying to do the choreography for her rehearsal for The Sound of Music, but once you hear the hammers and the machines going and it becomes very obvious that a song, or at least you hope a song, is going to happen, because I'm the same way. Like, if I'm out there and I hear certain things, like, for instance, if I'm at a stoplight and I have my turn signal on and I hear it going tick 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 tick, and you got like cars driving by, like, yeah, like the everyday like minutia,
I got that too.
it sounds like music. And
it's like I create beats with like random objects just out of impulse. Sometimes I'm not even consciously doing it. It's not like I'm totally like in my own head or anything, but it just ends up coming out, being externalized in some way. But of course, only I hear the beat.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you know, as far as that number, I don't like. It's a good number. I can say that because, you know, it does fit in with that character's personality and just what's going on in their head. I prefer the train tracks one though, because it's a number that's actually about something rather than just an excuse to have a musical number. Like, it moves the plot forward, and it's also just really interesting how they got all these extras just, you know, moving in unison, and it really feels like a musical number. And like, it's
no, they all feel
you know,
like
it's just
numbers.
funny seeing Peter Stormare sing. Well, I don't know, the one in the factory, it's like the lyrics,
I don't
I'm not
care
gonna
about
lie,
the lyrics, man.
I'm just gonna, like, it's conceptually cool that you can have a bunch of people in that factory dance around, but like the lyrics of that one just kind of irritated me, and it was mainly
care.
like, look, I'm dancing.
No,
or
yeah, I don't care about the
call that,
fucking lyrics.
yeah.
Like, the reason that I've Seen one got nominated for Best Original Song is because, yeah, it's a very emotional song about, I don't need my eyesight. I'm going really, really blind. I've already seen everything I want to see. Well, what about the Great Wall in China? Well, fuck it. I don't care. Like, yeah, great song, great songwriting. But yeah, for how emotionally responsive that is, I was just wowed. And maybe that's because it's the first song, or because you've been in this factory for so long and it's finally taken on like a whole different character and being like, oh no, this is a performance space. And these are all musical instruments around us, not machines. And
the beats and the sound working in repetition are really good
it's
there.
really
just as
good.
far as sound, it works.
It works so well. I'm happy. I didn't listen to this one with my surround sound headphones, but I did listen with headphones.
Oh, that's a mistake.
Yeah, I did hear it, listen with headphones, though. So, I got the sound mix really nice. The fact that the more blind she goes, I think that's might have just pushed people off of this if they aren't kind of in touch with the independent spirit or art cinema, or just like more avant-garde films, is that it becomes a musical once her eyesight basically is gone.
Mm-hmm.
When she can't see anymore, that's when, she starts fabricating what's around her using the music, or not even the music, but just, that atmospheric, I guess, sound
of what's surrounding her, like just trying to like form a reality in her own head of what she has working for her for her senses.
Just how not even beautiful but impressive it is that Bjork composed music with the samples of the actual machinery or the cars or the train tracks or this. And
you really love that number so much.
And I'm not saying just the factory, like I said, the train tracks, like all of them, because her music just inherently sounds like that. That's what the kind of production that she does. Like it's very.
That's just how she thinks.
It's very peculiar samples that she does. Like they're almost like not hip hop, but like trip hop. Like it's its own thing. Like if you've never, like I said, if you've never really listened to any Bjork music, it sounds like the music here, except it wasn't built up based on what the surrounding environment had to offer her. And it's, like I would like to add this, it's called Selma Songs. That's the name of the album. If you don't like this because, it feels like it's leading you on and it's like real depressing and it...
Well, it's like, here's the thing, I guess it's, when you're doing that and you're telling something that is supposed to be heavy and depressing, it almost feels like it's got no meaning and you're just trying to elicit some sort of emotional reaction because... Like, when something is sad, usually the part of the substance and what resonates is that there is great meaning behind it. Here, I just could not connect with it. I just felt like, okay, it's irritating when you're watching a storyteller torture a character for seemingly no reason other than you just want to. Like, her situation, it's just explained flat out and you understand it. And, there's little things like I at least can respect... just, how that's shown visually with how she's walking and just looking straight ahead and feeling the train tracks with her feet. Even how she's doing a rehearsal and she's struggling to focus on the choreography. And so she has her friend count how many steps she has to take for her so that she can tell where she is. There's little things like that. But it's just like, the way that this is developed and the way that this is written and the way that elements are introduced because they just happen, they just have to happen. Or just how characters serve a purpose, just like
watch more
Peter
musicals.
Stormare. Peter Stormare is just like he's just the guy that kind of wants to date her, and then she says she doesn't want a boyfriend, and he's just there for that. Like,
I haven't
it's
seen
so two-dimensional, and I know a lot of musicals are like that. But
no, I haven't seen many musicals, but you need to watch more. You got to catch up to me because they never make sense. There's never any logic to them. The reason a musical exists is a way to get from one song to the next, and that's exactly what this does. And that's
what I can't stand about most of them.
It's not the best framing structure, but if you took the music out of this movie, it would still make for a film that can, even if it feels like it's manipulating you, elicit an emotional response. Like it might not be crafted particularly well just in terms of the body of characters.
Just the emotions feel mostly disingenuous to me, like just because like it's deliberately constructed for an unhappy ending, and it's like, okay, 2.5 hours of that if you're not going to be the kind of musical that's rousing and is at least trying to like entertain you, like, and that's not me saying like because it's an unhappy movie that you can't like it. West Side Story is the Romeo and Juliet story told through musical. Like, we know how that one goes.
Even Romeo and Juliet, just the play itself, is entertaining. There's lots of quips. It's funny. There's lots of dramatic irony. Like, it's Shakespeare, you know. Like, he doesn't do serious. And yeah, this is an overly serious movie. It is very bleak and dramatic and melodramatic, and it does kind of like, beat you over the head with it. Like, oh, don't you feel bad for her? She's going blind. Don't you feel bad? She's being framed. Like, it's like
if it's going to be somewhat constructed in a real world or try to like offer this feel, it's like, well, at least give me some sense of reality that there's things working aside from just these two-dimensional points that you keep introducing. Like, okay, I don't know, like, at least give me, maybe there is one for all I know, but give me a name for, you know, this hereditary bit with the eyes. Like, I don't know, maybe give me more details in that. Like, how do you know that her kid's gonna get it at the same time, especially in the 60s, like, when it's possible that it could skip at that point? I don't know,
this
who knows?
could be a better movie. Totally. It 100% could be. It could be a better musical. It could be a lot of things, but for what it is, that's why I said I'm torn, because I can't say I like it.
Yeah, it's just, well, there's no subtlety there for me. It's like we don't experience the story. We're literally told it.
I wish I could say I like this. It's just, it's not my kind of movie in that regard. I would love to own it. If there was a Criterion DVD for this, I would love it.
I'm sure there
with
will
like
be,
a making of, in terms of how they did the 100 camera setups and the choreography and the songwriting process and interviews and like Oscars and maybe some like footage from Cannes, like when it won the Palme d'Or. Like, I wanna know a lot more about this film because it really is magnificent. Like, it's a feat of filmmaking that this was done in the era it was with digital cameras, and it looks the way it does. However, it kind of uses that to its advantage in a way that I'd never experienced before. Like, these musical numbers, I'm gonna watch these on YouTube for sure. Like, the courtroom, the factory, the train tracks, not the final one because I don't want to kill myself. But yeah, like, it's just, I never thought that a musical could be done this way. It totally just deconstructs what the genre means. And, you know, a lot of people are saying that about La La Land, except no. Like, that is such a pastiche of acclaimed musicals and
totally.
It's very obvious homage to things that it
very much like it's telling a story differently and it has a lot more to it, but that's more in a modern way. So
like, that is equally as little a musical as this is. I think that this is a straight up musical that just, it's not happy-go-lucky. Whereas La La Land is a romance that happens to have music in it. And you know, it's like pushed to the nth degree because, yeah, they're musicians or whatever. And then, yeah, you do get, you know, like that closing number, which is, well, not the closing number, but, you know, the big over-the-top Technicolor moment when they're on the soundstage. I gotta buy this one for $1. I'm gonna recommend this one to people. I wanna own it. I don't know when the next time I'm gonna see it is. And like I said, that's just the power of this film, that I didn't like it. I didn't love it. It didn't make me feel good. It didn't make me cry either. But it kind of escapes convention, where if there's a film like this, and like I said, I hesitate to say I enjoyed it, but wowed. I think wowed is the right word. That I was fascinated by the artistic choices here, not in terms of just the music and how that plays out and the numbers and the choreography and the camera movements, but then also how it gets more colorful, that these characters seemingly mean nothing. It's a one-woman show, and yet they also mean everything, because without them, you know, her little boy wouldn't get his eyes. Like, the power of, I forget her name, but the security, not the security guard, the officer, the female officer on the guard who plays Doris, the bus driver in Forrest Gump at the end.
Yeah.
Her name's Doris. That she's probably the best actor in this whole movie, and I don't even know her name. Like, she's just so good. She brings this emotional.
You think so? Really?
Yeah, like I don't know, she just has like this mother figure. She's the only.
I don't know. See, she just kind of has this cold stare, and then just has moments where she cries, and that's where I don't know. This is the things where I'm just thinking, like, really, Lars von Trier, you're gonna really tack this on again? Like,
No, I thought she was. I thought she was like real nuanced. Like I think like if you think about it, your job was to usher people in on death row to their last
absolutely.
days.
Like that
and
would definitely
to
have an effect
just
on you.
meet
But like,
this one woman, and you know her story obviously because you read the newspaper and things get around the prison cell, and you know just in your heart that she is not guilty. That yes, she killed this guy, but it's not the way it's been painted, and you want nothing more for her than to not die, and yet you have to walk with her every step of the way, counting the steps with her. And all she does with those counts and the marching is, ooh, I'm going to go into another musical number. I'm going to escape for like 107 steps, which I thought the choreography for that one was cool. Just the way that she was dancing in between the cells and how it's not even really a song. There's no lyrics. It's just 58, 57, whatever. Like, no, this movie breaks your heart in such a big bad way that it's a shame that it doesn't literally do so. That this doesn't make you want to cry. Like, you just feel bad for her. You can't escape the emotional burden of this voyage. How just shamelessly you love the music and at the same time don't really sympathize for the character. And it, like I said, I think there's only one takeaway from this for me, and it's something that I also talked about during La La Land, and it is the power of song and dance. How when you watch a musical, the reason why people love musicals, not necessarily just the escapism, but watching someone sing and dance is the closest you can get to actually feeling that emotion. Like, if you feel a certain way, for instance, like you just met someone you're in love, a musical number is going to articulate that better than any kind of line of dialogue or any song will or any dance will. But when it's all together at once, for instance, like the I've seen moment here on the train.
yeah.
If she was like, if this wasn't a musical and she just went, no, I don't need my eyes. I've seen everything I'm going to see. It would go a certain distance, but oh man, like I need to hear the Tom York version because that's what's on the album. That's one that got nominated. It wasn't the Stormare version because he's a bad singer. It's like,
well, then just like the playback here, because it's so obvious given the nature of it, it does not sync at all, especially on so many.
It's funny to just.
I'm just watching that. I'm like, dude, stick to Michael Bay movies. I much prefer seeing.
Stick to Big Lebowski. Stick to anything else.
Yeah, just this was frustrating for me. Like I'm sorry, I can't in my right mind recommend it to anyone. Like, I gotta say that, like, sorry Phil, but I am at least glad that I saw this. I knew I was gonna have to see it at some point. I'm fascinated by the movement. I really want to champion filmmaking like this. Like, I just want to champion something this ambitious, but man, like, this is just, there is no basic subtlety here for me. Like, we're just told things that happen. Like, we're given these ingredients and we see how they mix, but it's all very, very much on the surface. And it really felt to me like watching a student film pretending it's so great. It's like, oh, isn't this so sad? Isn't this so cool that we set this up? And, like, I think aesthetically it just doesn't contribute realism because the script and the performances, to me, they feel false and designed for the most part. Like, there's definitely really good moments, and, like, I cannot deny that some bits are effective. I definitely wasn't bored, even for a movie that's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And when it started, even though for you the first 30 minutes didn't seem to work, I thought it flowed pretty nicely.
Not
like,
that it didn't.
You're able to. It moves fast enough, and even things that seem off-putting, like, oh, this is really a period piece, like, but then you kind of just start going with it, and you're able to at least accept it as it keeps going. But
yeah, it's not that it didn't work for me. It was just coming to accept the style and the way it looks and the way it's cut, and that this is someone whose music I'm familiar with acting, and I'm not exactly sure, but I think I know it's a musical, and yet there's no semblance of that ever happening, except like this really amateurish, like theatrical production that kind of goes nowhere. Like the best thing about The Sound of Music here is that it's literally the sound of music, and you could use that as like a tongue-in-cheek joke as to how the music here works. But like just how painful, like to agree with you, when she goes to the play and they're watching it, and you obviously have the director call the cops, and he's trying to get her to stay there long enough to get arrested. Like I was watching, I was like, this is so horrible. Like not in terms of like how sad it is, but just the filmmaking in that moment. I was like, this is fucking horrible. I want to see her on the run. Please leave. Please get the fuck out of here. They don't have like fingerprint techniques yet. Like you would have got away with it. Trust me. Leave to Canada. Like
no,
they're
you
gone.
wouldn't have, because the wife was there and she witnessed the entire thing.
No, she wasn't. She left.
Yeah.
She went to the farm.
Yeah, no, but she knew that it happened. She reported it, and who are you gonna listen to? The wife of the cop or her?
I don't know. It, like,
I mean,
there's
there's enough things where it's like, yeah, if you left, you had a chance.
There's
but
very little logic here. For instance, when Udo Kier shows up,
I love that you're
okay,
saying
for like
that.
5 seconds, and she doesn't want the receipt. Just put it under his name, and his name is Nikov or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
Nova or Aldrich Novi. Yeah.
Yeah, Novi. And he's like, oh, you know him too? Oh, yeah, I left him in Czechoslovakia. And then he fucking shows up in the courtroom and he starts tap dancing on the judge's gavel. Like, it's beyond. Like, this is as big of a fantasy as I've seen in quite some time. Like, you know, there's superhero movies, and then there's this. Like, this is just as fantastical as La La Land. Like, it's so
I
so
think this
over
is
the top.
Very, very shallow, though. Honestly.
Oh
Like,
yeah, no, it
just,
is.
It feels like it's mean just because he wants Bjork to suffer for no reason that's necessary, other than it just has to be
Like,
sad.
I
and,
haven't
like,
seen all of Antichrist. I turned it off, but trust me, Charlotte Gainsborough suffers through that movie.
Oh, yeah, no,
Nymphomaniac
I've in
suffers.
yeah.
Like, he pushes. I haven't seen Melancholia. After Imagine Kirsten Dunst goes through a similar kind of trauma. Like, he pushes
No,
the
she
women
just kind
in
of
his
mopes
films.
around, and that's it.
He just pushes them to the brink to get a certain kind of response. Fuck, what's her name from Breaking the Waves? Samantha Morton? No. Is that it?
I have no
Maybe.
idea.
Anyway.
Well,
Man,
I mean,
you
yeah,
gotta
it's
see
just,
that
hey,
one.
he's doing that, and yet ultimately it feels like it's done for senseless reasons. Like, I gotta be honest, I ultimately didn't care. Like, I appreciate the idea, but I just feel like he didn't care about making this journey an experience, and it left no impact. It felt like one goal was in mind, was just tell this sad story, have her die in the end, and like I just felt like it was inevitably gonna be that in the end, and it's like, even I don't know, I didn't necessarily want things to be harder edged, but like even basic things like, okay, there are stakes set up with the factory. Hey, don't put 2 plates on here.
Yeah.
Be careful, you can cut yourself. Like, well, there's no great payoff there, really. Like, although then again, that would have been a very Hollywood thing to do, is to like make something really hurt at that point, when instead it's just like, oh, you fucked up. Okay, you can you're fired after doing something like
It's
that.
just-
That holds us up an entire day.
it's
But
the
it's not a good balance though of
It's
like
a
something that's
weird-
real and just
If
I
you've
don't know.
ever
It's
seen
very alienating
Bjork
for me.
like do an interview or anything, she just has like this childlike aura. Like, she is
Oh, yeah, no,
very
she has that very innocent just
Yeah,
thing,
like
which is kind of annoying. Like, I
Yeah,
seriously, when
like-
she says, "Oh, I'm going to call you Cavalda because I want to," right then and there, I'm just kind of like, "Oh, shut the fuck up." You're
like
gonna
that's
annoy
how
the
she
hell out of me.
is in reality, though. And so to cast someone and to write a movie with them in mind, and the only reason that exists is because you know she has such a beautiful voice that these musical numbers, when they happen, are just going to be really powerful. To cast someone like that in a role that's basically the same way, just not necessarily immature, but just naive and childlike, and like talking through movies, like to follow that person's journey and to make you even a little bit sympathize with them
I wish.
it had to be difficult, okay? And that's like the struggle here. That, are you really watching it for that, or are you watching it for the music? You know, like
I watch it for a movie for the same reasons, which is, hey, I want to at least be invested. If it's just music or if it's just, action, then so be it. But
I was far more invested in this than I was in Meet Me in St. Louis. I talked about that on 2 Cents episode 80. Judy Garland, Vincent Minnelli, I did not give a fuck about anyone in that movie, not even a little bit. I didn't hate the movie, it had some really good numbers, it looked really pretty. No. It was me for 2 hours basically just waiting for songs that were good. I was invested here. I did care for some reason. Like I said, I didn't cry, but I almost got there. I felt like I basically got blue balls at the end, that it would just end in that manner, especially with the quote on the screen.
Oh god, I gave the movie the middle finger right when that came up.
No, yeah,
I was just kind of like, fuck you, are you seriously doing that?
Especially
God,
because it does something that it doesn't do the rest of the film. The whole thing is handheld. Trier himself is the person who's the camera operator, and at the very end of the film, you get a crane that pulls up, and you're like, wait, so you had access to real filmmaking equipment, and you're only going to use it at the very end of the film?
Well, because
right
that's
after
when
you
they talk
pissed
about
me off?
I hate when the camera has to pull back, and that's where I guess it tries to feel like it's a musical. It's weird. It's almost like it's criticizing musicals without really understanding them, but also being as shallow as a lot of them are. Like I
said, I think that this is just the art house musical. That's all it is. I make this avant-garde independent cinema. I created Dogma 95 with a couple of friends. We kind of turned the filmmaking world on its head. I helped pioneer digital filmmaking more so or equally as much as George Lucas. You throw all that shit in there, and then you have this, and then you take a very talented singer, and you make these very iconic musical numbers with just beautiful songwriting, and it's breathtaking in certain moments, and then you also roll your eyes in others, and like I said, I gotta buy
most
it.
parts.
It's so unique. It's so different. I've never seen a movie like this. It's not even really a movie. It is so bizarre. Everything is intentional, even if it's intentionally bad, I think. It's a strange beast that I hope I meet more people that have seen it, just so I could have maybe not this conversation, but a conversation about it, because that's the best thing about movies, that you can have a certain experience and you can talk to someone about theirs, and it doesn't matter if you have the same one. Just having that ability, especially for something that most people haven't seen, even if this is, acclaimed as one of the best films of the 21st century, or one of the films you have to see before you die. And I agree with that.
A lot of people have that feeling, and I'm just kind of like, really? Is this the one? I seriously think I could have seen someone in our film school year just make this. Totally.
No,
it really is that
maybe
flat and
maybe everything, but not the musical numbers. You have to be
probably even the musical numbers.
No, you have to be a fucking
there's this
visionary.
Raw feeling of come on, you set up. I don't even call it visionary. You set up 100 cameras when you don't know where you're gonna cut, and you hire a choreographer, and then you figure out how you go from there. It's not to undermine it. It's a really cool idea that's experimental.
The framing structure.
Yeah,
the framing structure of how the music is brought to you. But not all of them are
good, I don't think.
They're not all amazing, but no, they are all good.
I'm probably only a fan of the one on the train tracks, to be honest. I really don't even remember the one in the courtroom that well.
They push you to keep on watching, or at least they did me. As soon as I knew that music was going to be an actual part of the film, I was watching because I knew another song was going to happen eventually, and I wanted to see where that went. And I think that's why it's such a smart film. That is what a musical is. That is literally what a musical is. You don't care about the characters necessarily. You want to see the big dance. You want to see the number. You want to be able to sing it when the movie's over and hear it on the radio. Hopefully it's
think
on the
it's-
Billboard charts, you know, like let me buy the soundtrack. Oh, I can't wait to see this at the Oscars for Best Musical Number.
See,
And then
that's bad storytelling for me, is that I have to at least be invested in something, or at least in a character. If like, that's the main thing, is I want to be invested in story and character. If I can't, I got to be invested in the aesthetic or something.
it's just
And
that's not
I just really wasn't here. Like, I definitely wasn't bored, but
that's not what a musical does though, man. Like it's
yeah,
not
no, I know.
musicals
That's
aren't
why I don't
movies.
like so many of them.
Yeah, musicals aren't movies. They're musicals. There's a reason why they're on Broadway and then they get adapted to the screen, and they're never as good on the screen as they are on Broadway. Like, there's just something about it. It's a performance. It's vaudeville. Like, to see someone in person just randomly sing and dance in front of a large audience, I don't know. There's just something unlike it. In the same way that going to a rock concert, there's something unlike it. Like, seeing people. It doesn't matter that they're getting paid, but just on stage trying to entertain you. I don't know exactly if it was commentary on this, but you have that moment when she's listening to the whatchamacallit, the vent or whatever, and she can hear, like the church. She can hear like the hymns, okay? Like, religion's the same way. They attract people in a certain manner in terms of hymns and song. Like, they've had that for thousands and thousands of years. It's like,
For me, though, I don't think it's necessarily a musical problem. I think I know what kind of storyteller Von Trier is at this point, and now I think I'm starting to see why the guy that makes jokes about Hitler and gets kicked out of Cannes, I think now I might see that I might not like his movies at all, just because I don't think I like how he tells stories based on this and Melancholia. Like, I still want to see Nymphomaniac and Breaking the Waves and other stuff for sure, but I don't know. I think that might be it, is that I just don't buy into his storytelling.
His worldview is definitely very bleak. Like,
I can buy cynicism, but when
it's past cynicism.
this haphazardly
Like,
put
no,
together,
I'm a cynic, okay?
Yeah,
but
me too.
The world that he takes you to is past that. It's dreary. It's in shambles. Like, there is no happiness. Like, a kid can't get birthday presents. Like, it's almost like the Outer Limits or Twilight Zone. Like, it really is, and kind of just
It really feels though
Yeah,
to
I
me
don't
like
know.
there's just no reason for it to be this way, other than he's the storyteller and he says it has to be that way in his own story. There's nothing that makes me believe that
I
the world
respect that
has much
though,
logic to it.
because it takes a lot, not necessarily skill, but it fucking takes balls, man, to film something of this nature. Not in terms of it being good, but to capture this kind of world on, well, it's not film, but yeah, like to even exhibit something like this, you have to really believe in yourself, and people have to believe in you. And there's a lot of people out there that do on both accounts.
Well, yeah, he got a lot of big name actors in this too. I mean,
like
this
all of
is-
his stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
he
so-
he attracts people for a certain reason, and
He definitely does. And
I think it's 'cause he's
I think I might
fearless.
not like his stuff.
Yeah,
honestly.
I might not like his stuff either, but I think he's just a real fearless filmmaker. He'll do anything he wants, and he gets the funding, and he gets the awards. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet, with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. Trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or even if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.